Several months ago, we did a tabletop shoot for Loop King Laces, a company that makes high-end luxury laces for sneakerheads. This was our first tabletop shoot using our virtual production studio. We used a variety of different stock backdrops, and we also fired up Unreal Engine and used real environments. The client was ecstatic when we were able to have such a wide variety of different backgrounds on a single shoot day, and I can't wait to show you how we did it. Our client was looking for ways to showcase their laces, and this was different than a traditional sneaker ad. A lot of times when we're doing sneaker shoots, we're showing every facet of the sneaker. We're showing the soles and the backs and everything like that. But this is a shoelace company, and really, we want to be focusing on the front of the shoe. So that did limit the amount of perspective and shot types that we could do. And that's why we utilized the virtual production studio, because we could really change up the look and kind of have a ton of variety while just still focusing right on that front of that shoe.
All right. Those are nice shoes you got.
We have a subscription to Envato Elements, and that's where we got a lot of our digital backgrounds. We're able to find a variety of different looks, from everything from techie to modern to neon to you name it. We were able to find a really cool background. And for those productions, we literally just had the background playing on loop. Now, we did run into one problem, and that was with VLC players, almost any other player that we had, most of those background loops were 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and we had just a little bit of judder that would kick in if we just let it on loop. So what we did was we just threw it in an Adobe Premiere project, and we rendered out several of the clips lined up, and that gave us one long, continuous 2, 3, 4, 5 minute video. And so it would only loop once in that cycle every several minutes, and then we were able to avoid that little judder, that hiccup that happens.
Whoa. That was close.
Now, probably the most classic tool that you can use for tabletop productions is a turntable. And we use our CineDrive system, which integrates into the Chaos software we use on our computer. And we were able to tie in our motion control head with the turntable and have very, very elaborate multi-axis moves. So we could have the turntable just running indefinitely, but we also had it set up where we could have it rotate into view as the camera was pushing in on it. So we could have the perfect shot, perfect focus, everything nailed precisely. I went to a local hobby store and found a nice 30-inch mirror. We then mounted that to the CineDrive turntable, and it was great. It reflected, we found the right angle that reflected the background without revealing any of the studio behind it. There was a bezel around it, and I was a little concerned that it might reflect lights in a bad way, but after a little manipulation, it actually created a really, really cool effect. We absolutely loved it. Now, the turntable was awesome, but what was even cooler was using two CineDrive heads together. One of the CineDrive heads was locked off on a tripod, with the other one in motion on a CineSlider. And the reason I was using two separate heads is it allowed me to get much more complicated movement on the shoe. If I'm just using a turntable, again, it's a single axis of rotation. But by having two axes of rotation, I was able to do orbits and tilts and just much more complicated moves than I would have been able to do with just the head locked off. So I was able to use my probe lens and bring the camera in for some really, really intricate and detailed shots.
Well, that's brilliant.
The challenge, of course, is in order to get the CineDrive head out of the way, I created a bit of a platform to extend the shoe up. But the further that you get the shoe away from that center of gravity, it starts to become more and more prone to wobble. So thanks to motion control, I just did a really, really slow move. I did a lot of these moves over the course of a few minutes, and the shoelaces were then able to be fairly stationary. I had minimal wobble in that. And then, of course, I just speed ramped it in post, and I got really, really great results. And again, that probe lens allowed me to get incredibly close and get these really dynamic wide-angle shots. Because we were using the probe lens and it was so wide, I ended up just blacking off the studio area and not using our AR wall for this section. Frankly, we would not have been able to get the full AR wall in the shot because the probe lens is such a wide-angle lens. Partly through the shoot, though, Kessler sent us over their new CineShooter system, and I was so excited to test this thing out for the first time. Not only did it have a great simplified motion control workflow, I love CineDrive, it's great, but it can be a little bit of a process to set up. CineShooter really refined that system down. And they also added a whole new axis. They have a roll axis built into it. So you have your pan, your tilt, and roll all in the single head. This allowed me to do even more dynamic moves. I was able to do some really cool Dutch dolly tracking shots that were just really, really cool. So I know you've been hearing me gush about Kessler Motion Control gear, but frankly, that's because I've been using it for so many years. I have most of their systems, their Cine Drive, Second Shooter, and now the Cine Shooter system. It's amazing. And with each iteration, they've made it easier to use and faster to set up. And as an added bonus, Kessler Crane is actually giving a discount to our viewers. If you go to their website and use the discount code CreativeEdge, you can get 10% off your next order. At this time, we decided to boot up Unreal Engine, and we found a nice basketball court as a backdrop. We booted it up, we got our Vive tracker mounted to the camera, and we were able to get some amazingly dynamic shots. I even flew in a couple small LED lights just off the edge of the camera to give it a little bit of lens flare, and then I used a blue light streak filter to really give it that cool cinematic blue light flare effect. One of my other favorite tools that I used for this shoot was the Smoke Genie. Again, I had gotten that in a few months prior, and that tool is amazing. I've played around with tons of smoke machines over the years, and usually it's a whole process to get the thing booted up, to get it set going. And the idea of doing like small intricate smoke, it would have big haze, or we'd create like some sort of an ice box and try to get some sort of deeper smoke. But we could never do the level of detail that we did. We had a ton of fun playing around with it, using it in its dry ice mode, where we can create this really thin layer of smoke that's just covering over either the ground or around the object. It was so cool to be able to have that level of detail and refinement on the smoke.
Man, that's a lot of smoke.
So the whole goal of this shoot was to create a nice library of content for our client to be able to use in a variety of social media content, everything from YouTube ads to TikTok shorts, all sorts of stuff. So we weren't necessarily shooting one specific ad, we were shooting for a variety of content. And the result was awesome. I had a blast doing it. I love doing tabletop shoots, and the client absolutely loved it. And using the AR wall like that, it performed excellently. It was such a great tool. Now, I know that we have our big projector and not a lot of people have space for that, but if you're doing just tabletop stuff like this, you can get a pretty good sized TV and get a lot of the same looks that we were accomplishing. And if you're interested in creating your own AR wall and you're curious how we built ours, head over to this video right here and you can see exactly how we built our AR wall.